can you preview for our audience about what's coming up in season 2?
Michael.
Well, I think we've really upped our storytelling, and I think in the first season we were really preoccupied with establishing the character of Harry Bosch and others on the show. And in the second season we're saying, let's really tell a bigger story, a more complicated story, a deeper story that still draws out what's important about these characters. And so I think we did that. We based it thinly, I guess you would say, on 3 of the books as kind of our backbone, but we modernized. It's set in contemporary LA. We have some real homicide detectives who we call them consultants, but they're really storytellers, and we took some of their stories and put them into this, and so we have a story that runs across all kinds of stuff from human trafficking. We even got ISIS in there. It's very contemporary and very I think reflective of what's going on in the world right now.
And that's one thing I noticed about this season. It is juggling a lot of different storylines. You've got an FBI investigation, you've got the murder, you've got whatever family trouble he's dealing with. So how do you kind of, when you're approaching that, how do you make sure that everything's getting a sufficient amount of space to have each story told completely?
What would you say? Our overriding thing is we trust the viewers. I think they're smart. I think to get to a show like ours, a streaming show, I think we just have to trust that they can track the tendrils of stories. And it's kind of the way I am with my books. My books are pretty complicated, but...
And that although they also seem, you have seen the first 3 episodes, they seem not connected, they are connected. There is a way where most of these storylines will cross paths and it will be like, really? That's how it works together. So, I mean, there's a lot of character and story, but I think this season compared to, it's more on character even. We go deeper into the character, and I think the audience really enjoy going down the path with a character and see changes in that. But it's a complex story. But it really, I have to say that I really enjoy how it come together, and the finale is very satisfying.
You've also got this shift now to Vegas, which is kind of a new aspect. Was that something you planned on doing in the second season, or how did that work kind of fitting into the story? Because it is a very LA story.
As we assessed what we had going at the end of the first season, and we liked this relationship between father and daughter. And she lives in Las Vegas with her mother, so we looked back at all my books, and there's one book called Trunk Music, which is more than half set in Las Vegas. So it was like, okay, there's our backbone. Let's add some other stuff. And we didn't want to set half the show in Las Vegas. We just wanted that flavor. So we filmed there like a total of 8 days.
Yeah.
And there's aspects of it in 3 episodes, but we found ways of bringing what's going on over there, bringing it back home, so to speak, bringing it back to LA. Because we always want to focus on the idea of Harry and LA, interchangeable characters in a way.
It seems like the reaction to the first season was overwhelmingly positive by people who had read the books. So was that something you're proud of and kind of...
Oh yeah, I mean, it's...
were you nervous about it?
I don't think we were nervous because, I was involved in it, so I knew what we had, and I just kind of have this instinctive thing that if you like the books, you're going to like the show, because I think we got the character of Harry Bosch right, and we got the character of Los Angeles right. And those are the key ingredients, if you ask me. And so I was very happy about this long before anyone had seen it. And then, the results were really good. And it goes beyond the, more people are watching the show than have ever read the books. And that's really kind of icing on the cake. I kind of knew we'd have the readers, but we wanted more.
I was super relieved when we got, because being a fan of the books way before I ever met Michael, that was one I hope I don't, do something that other people are fans of the books. Like, how could you do that? Like, there's so many bad adaptations. Like, I really wanted this to become the books that so when that finally was released about a year ago, and you could in real time follow the binge watching, and people's like, this is really good. It's the Harry Bosch I will read. That was like, okay, thank you. From this point on, I can be happy. So, yeah.
In terms of binge watching, it is difficult in a way because people, myself included, love to binge watch. But at the same time, then you get these gaps of a year between seasons. So is that ever a discussion of shortening that, or logistically would that just not be possible?
Well, we always have It is true. I mean, I'm the same. I binge watch everything, and you burn through it so fast, and it's like, okay, what am I now going to watch? When is new House of Cards coming out? When is Man in the High Castle? It's like you keep doing this. But I think as an experience when you're actually in it, it's the best way to see. And of course, there's discussion, especially for the streaming networks like Amazon and Netflix, where you burn through a lot of material. For us as producers, creators, great, because if you have something that works, they want it more. But we are always going to need that 9 months to create that next season. I mean, the quality is high, and that is because these guys spend a lot of the time in the writer's room, and then we take care of prepping the production and take 8 days, time 10 episodes. We have 85, sometimes 90 days of shooting. So it's hard to shorten that more. You can shave off a month or two, but it's going to be a year in between seasons. So,
Yeah, I don't see how you can do it and keep the quality up. Like technically we had a 6-week hiatus, but after Eric Overmeyer, the showrunner, and I, took about 2 weeks off, and then we were on the phone and an email saying what do we do next. So there was not even a month downtime. So it'd be hard to. The only thing we could do is make more episodes. I think that might be possible, but that's not in the Amazon model. So I think we're doing what we're doing, and to me it reflects my book writing. I only do one book a year, so.
You got George Martin beat.
Yeah. Well, my advice is watch this in the spring and read my book in the fall, and that's all you need.
Have you already kind of mapped out future seasons?
Not too much. We're shooting it. We're contemporizing everything. It's contemporary LA, and this place changes. Society changes. What's important changes. So, this is the same with my books. I don't think too far ahead because it's going to be a whole different. The palette's going to be different in 2 years or 1 year. And it's a lot of work just to do what we're doing, to stay up with the season we're doing.
we just started, literally yesterday, we started writer's room for the next season, season 3, and took a couple of months to nail down exactly which books we draw on. The good thing is, since Mike was writing one book a year, and we had 20 to start with, there's a lot of source material. But I think as we go further down the road, to go through books and let the TV characters evolve, we find stories that not necessarily was from the book. I mean, Lance Reddick, who has a big arc and a fantastic arc this season, is really a character that has evolved past what he was ever intended in the books. He's much more of a real character that serves a much bigger purpose, which is interesting, I think, that we can expand this universe.
Is that in turn feeding your creative process when you're looking now at future books? Do you have this world that you're kind of incorporating in?
Where it's affected or influenced is the storytelling. One of the first things we had to, the Bosch books are almost all in his point of view. And Eric, one of the first things he said is that we got to find other points of view because we can't have our actor in every single scene. We'd kill the poor guy. So the storytelling has changed, and so the first season and the second season has lots of stuff in it that's not in the books. It's related to the books, and it's like talked about offhand in the books or off camera in the books, but we are actually writing it and shooting it. And I think that went into my book writing way of storytelling, because my last book had multiple point of views, and I did it subconsciously. I didn't think like, oh, I'm going to do this like the TV show, but the book came out like the TV show.
So can you now kind of envision your book world as you would like a TV show? I guess has it altered the way, are you picturing your characters now as the actors?
It's weird. It hasn't happened with Harry Bosch because the guy in the books is, I write about him and he ages as the books age. And so he's a lot older than Titus. He's about 15 years older. So I'm kind of set with this guy who just retired and is 65 years old. And then when I go and work on the show, we're writing about a guy who's still vibrantly involved detective, and so they're kind of two different animals. So the visual has not jumped into the books yet.
So did you ever imagine when you were initially doing journalism that you were going to get to this point of now seeing your vision in actual people walking around saying your words?
No, I mean you can never foresee something like that, but I have to at the same time say all writers have egos, and the reason that I thought I should write a book is because I thought people should read my stories. So it's an easy jump to say, well, I think people should see my stories and actors should play these guys. You know, and that's all fantasy. There's no way. I mean, there's so many moments of serendipity that have helped me along the way. You just can't possibly imagine what could happen. But, you know, it's very interesting because we hadn't started at the beginning, but we've started with some early books. And so I'm seeing stories I wrote like 20 years ago contemporized. But sometimes dialogue doesn't change and other things don't change, and it's really, really fantastic and fulfilling to see that happening after so many years.
And what do you think people are going to enjoy most about season 2 if they liked the first season?
I think they will get everything that we had in the first season that people really reacted to. You know, Harry's still very much front and center, and then I think both Lance Reddick and Jamie Hector, who had prominent roles, are evolving as characters in their own right and get more screen time and story time, which I think, fantastic actors. I think we're a bit bigger in scope. There's, it's still not an action-driven show, but we have a couple of set pieces that are pretty fantastic. We spent almost 5 days on 2 separate occasions to shoot a shootout. It's pretty cool. So it's really a good follow-up season. I think this, for all intents and purposes, and I'm very happy with the first season, but I think this is better.
I think people will respond to the fairness and relentlessness of Harry Bosch, played by Titus. Those are kind of universal things that we all hope we would have in our own walks of life, and I think that's the connection point, and I think that's really driven home in a big way in season 2.
Yeah, because I always have the feeling that he's about to do something that crosses the line, but he never really does. Like, he seems to stay within, at least some ethical boundaries of how he's going to move forward.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that the key thing is relentlessness. He's going to be unstoppable, but he does walk the line. It's a very thin line, but he tries to stay on it, and I think that's something. I'm always struggling with why do people like these books? What is it about this character they're connecting to? And it's got to be on the line of what's in their own lives. And like Harry can't stand bureaucracy, and we all have to face that and deal with it. We would all like to be relentless in whatever our pursuit of life is. And so you might not know anything about how to solve a murder, but you can connect to this character on that level.
And we would all like the fancy house on the hill.
Yeah, I don't know about fancy, but it's got a fancy view.
It's got a fancy view.
Yes, it does.
But, it's kind of a shack on the hill.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both so much.
Thank you.